Good morning and welcome to my YouTube video channel. My name is Kendrick Christie. I'm a certified fraud accountant, a chartered accountant, and certified cryptocurrency investigator. I'm hailing from the island of New Providence in the Bahamas, and I'm here with my interviewer today, Mr. Valdio Cooper, who's also my videographer. And we welcome you to our third video in the series. Our first video was on how to prevent fraud. The second video was on how to prevent being a victim of cryptocurrency fraud. That was published 1 month ago. And today we're here to talk about FTX and from a Bahamas perspective. I'm sure you would have been following that in the news, and today we're going to talk a bit about it. We also have our colorful balloons in the background, which is our signature style. And we just welcome you, and hit like, hit subscribe, and give us your feedback. Thank you. Before further ado, Mr. Cooper, so you ready?
Ready to go.
Okay.
I promise to take it easy on you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. We're right here in the heart of the action.
Awesome. So, for the layperson out here, tell us about the FTX situation. How did it develop?
Okay, well, FTX certainly, was a company that came here quite recently. As you know, they set up shop in Nassau. They have their headquarters. They have affiliates around the world, and they also have a U.S. operation. Certainly, they received with a lot of fanfare. Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried was the owner, and he came in and he had a conference, and cryptocurrency really elevated the space. We call it the cryptocurrency world. He was sort of like a godlike figure, right. And people really respected him. And you heard people talking about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. So quite recently, there was an article that came out about the FTT token, which is a token owned by FTX. Right. And it was an article that came out, I believe, on November 2nd. So quite recently, that indicated a lot of the assets of the FTX were based on this token. Okay. And if you follow for the layperson out there, a person's token is something.
Tell me what that is.
Yeah, yes, there's a coin. Bitcoin is the original cryptocurrency. It was created by Satoshi Nakamoto, or he, she, or they. Believed to even been in the Bahamas at some point. But it was a digital asset in a digital world, and it had the blockchain. Blockchain is the ledger that records transactions on the cryptocurrency world. So token is basically a digital coin that you create, that anybody can basically create, and it copies loosely. It copies the blockchain of the existing coin, and so it can be created very easily. Okay. And its value is determined by supply and demand, and by what the market perceives. So it's very volatile. You've got a Dogecoin, you've got this FTT, you've got a number of coins on tokens operating, and then of course Bitcoin and Ethereum, they are coins. They have their own blockchain. Bitcoin, for instance, is non-controlled. There's no board of directors. Some people call me a Bitcoin maximalist, right? Because I believe in the original idea behind Bitcoin was to bypass the banking system, and to have you really be your own banker. Right. All right. But again, going back to the situation, November 2nd, there was an article that came out, and basically it indicated that a lot of the holdings that FTX had were in this token. It caused a lot of concern, and at that time there was a lot of pulling out of assets from FTX. And again, I want to say that my views today are really my own personal views. They're not of my company, Pro Bahamas. I just want to make it aware that this is my personal views, and this is based on articles and information. So what happened then was that Mr. Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF as we call him, attempted, like anybody, to try and keep his company afloat. He contacted ZZ, who's the owner of Binance, which was a competitor in another exchange, and attempted to obtain a bailout of his company. Because obviously, if deposits if the assets are plummeting, the value of the token, which is going downhill, that means your assets are declining, and you have liabilities, obviously, to your account holders. Right. So if 100 in assets, it goes down to 20, hypothetically, and you have liabilities of 100. Right. Your leverage has just dropped. Okay, so he reached out, SPF reached out to Binance. Binance apparently signed a letter of intent to purchase at some point. They went from a process of, okay, we're going to go from lending to attempting to buy you out. Yeah. So Binance apparently signed a letter of intent to purchase the company, subject to due diligence. You know, when you buy a company, you have to, you know, carry out certain reviews of the financial statements, inquire certain vendors, employees, all of that stuff. What happened is once, at some point, Binance indicated that they were not interested, they would withdraw the letter of intent. Of course, that created a lot of disruption, a lot of panic. Yeah. And then there was no funding available. I know SPF allegedly was attempting to find funding. And so this created a situation where the company became illiquid. You know, without getting into specifics, at some point the FTX US was put into what we call Chapter 11 bankruptcy to protect it from creditors and to enable it to try and right size. And then the entity in the Bahamas was put into liquidation by the regulator, Securities Commission of the Bahamas.
Excellent. So we have an understanding of the background behind the FTX situation. You know what I mean? I always wanted to, like I saw Mr. Christie, I messaged him on WhatsApp. I said, what is the full situation, man? Tell me the full breakdown of what's happening. So I have really a greater understanding now, yes, and I appreciate that. So could an auditor picked up these alleged violations?
Right, excellent question, and it's good to see, you know, my aim in all of these videos is to educate and to give my perspective as a Bahamian professional here on the ground. And the audit is a financial statement audit is really of historical information, and certainly it is one of the things that companies like FTX and others should try to do. In this case, as an audit, I can tell you that we are basically looking at information on a historical basis. And we come in and we look at the information after the fact. And while it is proper, it is good to have a financial statement audit, certainly, and it can detect improprieties or fraud. And it certainly is not as useful as a review of the corporate governance or also of information on a regular basis. You got to understand that in the crypto space, things happen rapidly. You know, the brick and mortar companies, certainly things can happen as well, but in the crypto industry, token, for instance, can go up to $10 in one day, and the next day it can go down to $2. And you have larger than life, you know, situations where persons have a lot of say into, as in this case, allegedly, into what goes on in these companies. And so we have to rely on internal audits and control processes and active review on a monthly, regular basis of the entity throughout the year, and that way we with the external audit. So yes, the answer is yes, but it certainly certainly would be something that would come later on. And of course, these situations, tokens and under leveraging can happen in the blink of an eye. And so we rely on a method of various corporate processes and controls to ensure that everything is in order.
So where do we go from here in terms of crypto exchanges and dealing with cryptocurrency here in the Bahamas now after this whole FTX debacle?
It's a good question. Some good questions today, Matthew.
So let's continue easy.
You put me on the spot. But you know, it's like anything in life, you know. And as a certified fraud examiner, you know, we have statistics to show that people or companies usually don't put things in place or enhance their controls until something happens. So definitely we're going to see more regulation. I think the U.S. government, newly elected House and Senate, the Bahamas Securities Commission, financial crimes. You know, I want to stress that we have some of the best regulators in the world. Central Bank of Bahamas, Compliance Commission, the Insurance Commission. They interact on a regular basis with regulatory bodies around the world. Myself as a Bahamas Institute of Chartered Accountants member and past president can assure you that our continuing professional development requirements are some of the best. We have to do a certain amount of courses and hours each year, and we have to do that, or otherwise our license is in jeopardy. And so we're learning. You know, regulators certainly will look at this as a teachable moment, and while also ensuring that this is prosecuted. There are obviously depositors that have lost money value, and there's been a lot of losses around the world. And so if there's any indication of incompetence or fraud, I'm sure that the authorities will investigate that and it will work its natural course. Certainly though, there will be more proof of reserve. There will be auditors signing off on a regular basis. There will be a requirement for demonstration of corporate governance, board of directors. Has to be an independent person on that board of directors, and more scrutiny on financial statements, and ensuring that there's a sign-off requirement on all assets. And again, the other thing, usage of tokens. I think there'll be a push to prevent exchanges from issuing or certainly restricting the amount of tokens, because tokens are used for collateral, and they can also be a big risk because they drop in value.
So, really the question that begs to be asked now is, how does the Bahamas move on from something like this that happened with FTX?
I had an article in the news the other day that the Bahamas will again use this as a teaching moment, but also that we will be encountering some turbulence as on a flight. There certainly is we cannot deny that there is certainly going to be some negative views of our country out of this, even though this is a worldwide entity that the U.S. operation, as I stressed, has failed, and and where there's fraud, as a certified fraud examiner, I can tell you that where there's fraud involved, and should there be fraud, then it's difficult sometimes for systems to detect that because it's an element of concealment.
Right.
It's concealment, and that's difficult to overcome in the absence of some increased scrutiny. All right. So I think Bahamas is going to manage this and mitigate against the risk, ensuring the Securities Commission, the regulators, basically do what they're supposed to do. The liquidator, Brian Sims of Lennox Payton, PricewaterhouseCoopers, I understand, are investigating. And I find them to be very competent. And I think that, there's a lot of question also about interviewing SPF. And when we talk about forensic science, what it teaches is that you will conduct a proper investigation. You have information, you gather your information as a forensic examiner or investigator. And so when you meet with the person who's at the center of it, you have information. And so sometimes this takes a while before you meet with or question the poisons at the center of it. And that's established forensic science or forensic accounting process. But I think the Bahamas has reputable exchanges here that are coming, and we have to demonstrate to the world that we've investigated this properly, that we've corrected any deficiencies in our processes. I mean, we would have wanted the first country to bring the sand dollar or the CBDC, these central bank digital currency, into the world. It was the first country, sand dollar, and we were also, I believe, one of the first countries, if not the first, to bring the digital assets regulations. So we've been at the cutting edge, and now these laws are being tested, these regulations are being tested. Okay, and so we will improve, I'm sure, like anything else. We've had some bumps along the road in the tourism industry. We've had some bumps along the road years back. Swiss Securities and other entities, the government stepped in, shut that entity down, and then the laws were improved. I mean, back in I believe it was 2001, we came up with 11 or 12 pieces of legislation that changed the landscape of our financial services, right, and created a KYC system that we sometimes joke that it's easier for a person to set up a bank account in the U.S. It would take about an hour. It would take about 2 to 3 weeks a month here in the Bahamas because of all the regulations. All right, so I think we will experience some turbulence as in a flight. We certainly have to navigate the world looking at us and being very skeptical of what we're doing here, and we have to make sure we speak as strategically and and ensure that those who, if there should be any wrongful doing or any fraudulent activities, as the liquidator is now alleging, that they're prosecuted, and that we try to make all creditors as whole as possible, and we then improve the system. Just like if there was a collapse in the U.S., which have been collapses in the U.S. and Europe and Australia and other places, they've been able to improve their systems and demonstrate to the world that we're back in business.
For sure.
All right. We do not deny that there's, if I dare to keep using the airplane analogy, that we're in a state of heavy turbulence right now, which would certainly not cause the plane to do anything untoward, but it certainly feels uncomfortable, and certainly the passengers on the plane and are looking at it and so we want to. I think we have the experts. I mean, one of the things, for instance, I'm a certified cryptocurrency investigator, and I've encountered any number, 10 to 20 certified cryptocurrency investigators in the Bahamas alone. I mean, a population of 400,000, right? We have compliance experts, ACAMs, certified fraud examiners. I think per capita, chartered accountants. For instance, we have a vast concentration of resources here, and we just need to show the world that we're doing it properly. There was an issue, it's a worldwide issue, and we basically cooperate with the US, which is, you know, the entity that is in bankruptcy, and they have, you know, obviously a tension between the liquidator here and the liquidator in the US, right? And so we want to cooperate with them to make sure that all who would have, whatever's found out, that we improve the processes, systems, and scrutiny. We attract only quality business from now on. We ensure that, you know, that there'll be no more you know, there'll be obviously larger than life individuals, but they don't have all of the control and monopoly around systems, and that the controls are in place. Okay, and I think I have every belief that the Bahamas is resilient and will certainly recover from this and attract quality crypto business going forward. Well, I hope that you, as usual, would have stuck with us throughout. We provided you with the matching shades and the colorful balloons in the background. I think we had that on our first video, and it's a signature of ours. But just bringing a diverse perspective to this. Myself as a chartered accountant, certified cryptocurrency investigator, certified fraud examiner, Valgio as a videographer, top medical professional in the Bahamas, and very good videographer. We're going to continue pushing these videos out. We want your feedback. You can subscribe, like our channel on YouTube, and also on LinkedIn. And we just appreciate you being with us, and let's keep up the dialogue. Thank you, Mr. Cooper, as well.
Good seeing you, man.